The seller is not my client. The seller is going to say any number they believe.
I've been in the commercial side. I was a commercial lender for a long time.
Yep.
It's the other part of it is you don't want to come in and make a lowball offer. And I think that's where I'm having a lot of issues because it is a small world at the end of the day. Everyone knows everyone.
Sure.
And so building that relationship is actually very important rather than just putting in an offer because you're going to get basically.
I disagree in the sense that I'm not looking to be their friend. Like you have to understand, like I'm looking through the lens of an investor. I don't care. The seller is not my client. Just understand that the seller is not my client.
Sure.
The buyer is my client and I will treat the buyer like gold. And obviously, like I'm a good person. Like I'm kind. I'm not going to treat this person like an ass, but I'm saying I'm not trying to build a deep relationship with a seller. My intention is like all they need to know is that I can close. Because all a seller wants, their price and that I can close. That's what a seller wants. They want to sell their property for their price and into a credible buyer. That's it.
Yeah, I guess if you're acting as a broker and assigning, but I think on the other end, because I'm more like as an investor, so then oftentimes I want to be on the deal. So
of course,
it's just really hard to also just like throw in. I mean, I know you have a conversation and you're trying to gather as much information. Like on this case with Rodney's deal, you don't know the lease term, right? So then you can continue, you can be able to get some numbers, but until you actually get some lease term to understand, especially if they have like their own business that is occupying it, you don't know what kind of leases that they have between their entity. So it's hard. So then you have to have more of those conversations, I guess.
Yeah, and just know, like, listen.
Report, it's harder.
The seller is going to say any number they believe. They don't know how to value property. A lot of realtors don't know how to value property. How is a seller who maybe owns one property that they've owned for 30 years, or maybe they inherited it, they don't know how to value this property, right? Like a lot of people will be like, oh, I need to have it appraised, because I don't know what it's worth. Like, okay, well, let me educate you on exactly how to value the property, right? Like, man, you have an unbelievable amount, you have a wealth of experience around the lending side of this world, which a lot of people don't have. When I'm making an offer on a property, I want to sell their property, right? I want to help them transact, because obviously if they don't transact, there's no money to be made, period, end of story. So in this instance, $1.3 million. She has no idea what this property is worth. She's throwing a number out there. How on planet, you can even ask her, how on planet Earth, obviously I wouldn't say that, but I'm just curious, Deborah, how did you come up with your $1.3 million number? And she's going to tell you, well, this, and this. Like, okay, whatever she says. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to piss her off, but at the same time, I can't lose money. Warren Buffett's number one rule with money: don't lose money. Number two, don't forget number one. The intention here is that I'm not trying to piss people. My intention is not to piss people off. My intention is to not lose money. Yeah. My offer is strictly around not losing money. So making an offer, I don't care what she says. Don't get me wrong. She's not going to love me if I make an offer for $400,000 on a property she thinks is $1.3 million. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie to her. Like, her property's maybe worth 700, maybe. And that's if the freaking NOI isn't even if maybe I'll take a little bit lower of a cap rate deal because I know the upside if I can buy it for 700. But it sure as heck is not worth 1.3.
And I think that's the other challenge too. Like, again, it's a small world. A lot of the time, a lot of these properties, especially in the commercial side, are owned by brokers or investors themselves, and they have multiple. That's what you're kind of.
I want you to understand something. If they own multiple properties, right, like which a lot of people I deal with do, if they own multiple properties, I typically am like, listen, we're probably going to be I'll verbalize the offer. But like, listen, we're probably going to be in the offer range or somewhere between 3 and 4 million, whatever it is. In this situation, I'll be like, it's probably going to be somewhere between the $500,000 to $700,000 number I'll say that over the phone, right? I might not draft up a letter of intent because I want to gauge their level of interest. By the way, you can just say, like, I have a client of mine who probably would be closer to the $500,000 to $700,000 number. They go, I would never accept that. Listen, I'm not telling you to accept it. I agree with you 100%. I don't think you should accept it either. No problem. And then I'll flip the conversation into a buyer conversation, and they're not going to sell it for 1.3. But I want to know very quickly, am I going to do some business with you one way or another? I need to know. And I'm not going to beat it around the bush in the entire time because I don't like, they're not going to look, they're in the same business, Meehan, right? Most of these people who own a lot of property, they're in the same freaking business. They understand the game. I'm not trying to call somebody up who's incredibly savvy because it's like, you're not going to call up Blackstone and try to offer them 10 cents on the dollar, but you can call up Miss Deborah, who owns one property, who's 80 years old, and offer her 50 cents on the dollar. And it's up to Deborah to sell it, say yes or no. Because if she wants to sell this property, she needs to sell it at a reasonable price.
So you don't really take consideration into building the relationship. So like your deal, like the last call on the last guy for 130 something, obviously you're going to need to get a lot more information.
You said 130, right? The 130 unit deal?
Yeah. Obviously, that one you're not gonna just estimate and then throw in because you
I
did say
will.
that, oh, you're gonna put
I'm
in
gonna
a
100%. I'm gonna send them an offer for $14 million, $100,000 a unit.
even though you don't really.
Think about it like this, Mihan. What's the worst that's going to happen?
I mean, I know that he won't sell it to you. You will go
He's not going to sell it.
have it. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Does that kind of ruin your reputations as well,
No,
too? You don't want to be known as
absolutely not.
somebody who's throwing on lowball offers all the
But I
time.
also like, here's the thing. I am somebody who closes deals. If you would like to sell your property and know that you're getting to the closing table, which in these larger deals is actually what matters because everyone in the world calls themselves an investor. But when you're dealing with deals of 10, 20, 30, 50 plus $1 million, you want to have somebody that's going to close and not just yanking your chain or trying to flip a contract and it's all BS stuff. I'm going to offer the guy $14 million. Listen, it's like, you think Blackstone gives a shit when they make an offer on a property?
No, and I think that's the other thing. I mean, many of us probably do need to build up our bio pool or investors that we need to bounce it off because it's not like, any day that we can just be able to take down any of these deals on our own, right?
100%.
So
Listen,
over time.
make an offer. Trust me, make an offer. And by the way, if they own 40 properties, I'm probably not lowballing the living shit out of them. It's just not going to happen. Like they're probably not going to sell to me. Like if I have a friend of mine who runs a self-storage business. Okay. Mom and pop, he's a mom and pop guy, but he owns a bunch of facilities. Well, I'm not going to call up CubeSmart, people who own billions of dollars worth of self-storage facilities all around the country, and I'm not going to call them up and offer 50 cents on the dollar. CubeSmart's going to think I'm an idiot. That's stupid. But I can call people like Deborah, who own 1 or 2 properties in the middle of nowhere, middle of nowhere, New Jersey, like anywhere in New Jersey, anywhere in the middle of the country, anywhere, does not matter. I can call up these people who own 1 or 2 properties and I can offer them any number that I feel might make sense and might make me some money. And I don't care what they say because Deborah's not going to know who the hell Henry is in 6 weeks. If I call back and I say my name is John, she has no idea. My intention is I want great deals. I get paid because I find great deals. And the only way to find great deals in this market is to make a lot of offers. And I care more about my reputation with my buyers who I actually really work with versus the sellers who actually have no conception of value. Hope that's clear. Does anyone else have any other questions?
So
Sure.
all the deals will be doing the lowballing, or so say for example, if so I understand the properties which is distressed, we will be going for the lowball offers. And how about like class A and class B related?
So
like
let's just be
living
clear.
apartments.
Let's no longer use the word lowball offer. Even though let's not use the word lowball offer anymore. Let's use the term offer. I'm making an offer. Every buyer on planet Earth who's legitimate, okay, who has $10 million in their bank account today, okay, the people that we're selling any property to on planet Earth, Class A, Class D, anything in between, period, end of story. Every property right now that's trading with interest rates at where they are today, let's just call a spade a spade. If you've got 10 million bucks in your bank account where you can get 5% interest in the bank, if you're going to invest your money and you have all these options out in the world, are you going to buy something with very little upside, or would you prefer to hold off until you find something that has a good amount, if not a great amount of upside? What would you do? You want the most upside possible. You want to make a lot of money. As investors, that's what we invest in real estate for. So it's like, we want to think like investors. I'm not here to just list a property like Deborah's property for $1.5 million and never make a cent. This is what we're taught at all these other brokerages. List properties, list properties, list properties, list properties. It makes absolutely zero sense if the property's over market value by 40%. It makes no sense. So what we do is that, think about it. If you brought Deborah's property, or any property for that matter, Roddy, let's say we bring Deborah's property to your best investor, some guy, ton of money in the bank, very seasoned, owns hundreds of thousands of square feet of industrial in the local PA markets, seasoned, savvy guy. Do you think he's buying a 3 cap?
No, they'll tell you to kick rocks. And
he would tell you to kick rocks. And I'd rather have a deep relationship with that guy who buys 20 properties a year.
I also think to Meehan's question, like I've been doing the same thing. I know I've just spoken with you, Henry, but like I've been doing the same thing in the residential end and making similar, the ratio of offers. I bought so many places from people who were like, they'll want 150 and I'm offering them 50, right? And I think as long as you're not destroying a relationship, like whether that person realizes it in the moment or not, you're literally, we just walked through the reasoning why we're coming up with the offer, and there has to be a profit margin, and for all these reasons that they don't know, but like you're not necessarily destroying a relationship. And maybe half the places I bought have been with people where, I think in one right now where like property was listed day one at 125, offered like 40 the first day. And it took them 3.5 months to come back around and finally realize after selling it for 75 to an FHA buyer, that falling through, selling again and falling through. And they finally called me back and said, oh my God, like you're the one who made the true offer on day one. And they sell it to you because they like you, honestly. Like I didn't offend them at all. It's most of the situations with stuff we bought in the past is that this is just on a higher
100%.
scale.
Listen, we are coming from the mindset of I'm a legitimate. I know for a fact that if Deborah said yes to 450, I'm closing on that deal. 100%. I'm closing. No BS, no funny business, no problem. If someone offered her $1.3 million for her property that she wants right now, there's no way they're closing. No way. I'm saying the BS meter is maxed out right now. As an investor, we must think like investors, and I'm making a legitimate offer on a property. Stop saying lowball, because it's not a freaking lowball offer. Don't get me wrong. They might think it's a lowball offer at first, but it's legitimate. I'm making a legitimate offer because even if I'm just cutting out the middleman of taking X deal, Deborah's deal or whoever's deal, and then going to an investor, John, whoever it is, Sally, whoever is looking to buy a property, they're going to make an offer, or they're going to tell you like this property absolutely makes no sense. And then you're going to be like, well, please, I know it makes no sense. Please make an offer at something that you might think you might make sense of. All right, make an offer of 700 grand, because at 700, it makes sense. I'm just cutting out the having to go to the buyer to get an offer. I already know what the buyer is going to say. They're going to say, I want a 10 cap day one so I can cash flow and I have some upside. So instead of calling them, I learn how to underwrite just like they do, and I make the offer ahead of time. And I pre-negotiate the deal. So instead of wasting their time going back and forth, and maybe Deborah never moves off for 1.3, I know ahead of time they're not that motivated. So that's how I'm able to move so fast.